Looking for these better days.
It is Thursday, September 11th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. Thursday Night Football will kick off week 2 of the NFL season. We also have some college football tonight. We'll get to some best bets coming up for both of those games. And in Major League Baseball, the wild card races are heating up as teams are just playing some bad baseball right now down the stretch, losing these leads at an important time of the season. Jared Smith joins me here on this episode of Better Day. And Jared, I think let's just start off by acknowledging yesterday was a pretty shitty day in this country and in the world. And
Oh
I
yeah.
always say this when it comes and it's just ironic that this happens to be an anniversary of one of the worst days in my life and one of the worst days in
Yeah.
the lives of this country. It's just sports and what we do has always been the distraction
Yep.
from real life. Obviously, there's way more important things in life than talking about sports and talking about sports betting. But what we try to provide is an escape, an entertainment outlet, and that's what we're going to do on this program. That's what we strive to do each and every time we turn on these cameras and these microphones, and that's where I will leave it. So let's have some fun and let's get into some football games here for tonight. Oh, by the way, if you haven't had a chance to already, you got to check out the newest article that I posted yesterday up on betterday.com. It's free for all you members, so make sure you subscribe and you'll get the article. I already emailed it to all of you members, but it had to do with how we can exploit recency bias in the NFL. Jared, I know you read the article. You dove into the numbers that I provided
Fantastic.
there. Yeah, I was about to say, what was your takeaway?
Fantastic. Listen, I think we get to the point in the NFL where we get blinded by the results. Like absolute, like we're staring into the sun waiting for the box scores. And there is so much more context than the box scores. For example, I have become more of an advocate for diving into the film. Like, what are the players actually doing on the field to make those results happen? There are so many
Mhm.
other, like, you go to a library and there's all these little different aisles you can walk down, science fiction, history, romance, whatever. There's so many different aisles of handicapping to go down to try to find an edge. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's whatever suits your fancy, whatever aligns with the way you view the game. And the way that you laid it out with reacting to the market, not the games. Like, who you have to close your eyes and ignore the
Mhm.
teams and just react to what the market does and then slot each team into their little section, right? We have the 1-0 teams, we have the 0-1 teams, and every team kind of responds, or I guess I should say gets a market response in different ways because it's our first reaction, it's our first data
Yep.
point, and a lot of times it is too heavy of a data point, right? Because at the end of the day, we'll look at 17 data points and the first one will be weighted more heavily in week 2, but then you stretch it out the course of the season and it's really just 1 out of 17. So it was a really good way to look. I don't want to spoil it for any of the people who haven't read it yet. If you're waking up today, you got plenty of time to read it. Most of the games that are talked about in that newsletter aren't going to be played until Sunday or Monday. But it really was a unique way to kind of dissect the market and not overreact to the things that we saw in week 1.
Well, tonight's game that will kick off week number 2 is one of the games that you can put into one of the categories that I wrote about. So on Thursday Night Football tonight, we have the Green Bay Packers hosting the Washington Commanders. And the Green Bay Packers are a favorite right now, anywhere from 3 to 3.5, depending on the book that you look at here. And the Packers are coming off a very impressive win. And so are the Commanders, for that matter. Like the
Sure.
Commanders are coming off a win, but then again, it was against the Giants. And say what you will about the New York Giants, the Commanders were never in jeopardy of losing that football game. And the Packers, I mean, they handled the Detroit Lions, a 14-win team from a season ago, got absolutely whooped by the Green Bay Packers. So
Mm.
naturally, just right off the bat, there you would think there's an inherent bias from the recency that we just saw with the Green Bay Packers. But now you dive deep into the numbers. You have a 1-0 home favorite. This is where the trends really jump out to me because, as I detailed in the article, 1-0 teams that are favored in week number 2 overall are only 34% against the spread since the start of the 2021 season. When those teams are home favorites in week number 2, 5-15-1 against the spread, failing to cover by 3.5 points per game. I think if this game was played in a couple of weeks from now, we can look at it differently. But based
Mm.
off of what we saw in week number 1, both of the teams are coming off wins, but one of them is coming off of a very impressive win, and that is the Green Bay Packers. Man, it feels like fading the Packers is the right move here. As much as it's a hold your nose play, Jared, it just feels like it's the right move.
I agree. And we're holding some Packers love from earlier in the summer. This
Hmm.
felt right. Like going into the season, this felt like a good fade spot for Washington. Coming off a divisional game, you have in week 1, and you're the first team that has to turn around and play a road game on Thursday night. That's
Yeah.
tough. That's just right out of the gate when you're looking at the schedule. And this is, you don't really care what state the teams are in when they get to this game. If you're just fresh look at the schedule back in May and you're like, damn, Washington's got to play a tough Giants defense, very physical, divisional game. And then you got to turn around and go to Lambeau 3 days later. That's a tough spot. So you saw sharp money on Green Bay all summer long. I got -1.5 and -150 money line. I mean, that's long gone now.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Micah Parsons news and all the Packers narrative, and that kind of artificially frothed Green Bay a little bit higher. And then the performance they had on Sunday pushed the market, I think. To be fair, I don't really think the performance on Sunday really moved the market because Washington also played well. So it was kind of a double positive result. But yeah, you really have to look to fade, as ugly as it sounds, the team that looked the best, one of the best performances, I
Yep.
think, on Sunday. Green Bay's defense, and that was one of the notes I had, was the Packers D, and this is a question I'm going to ask our pals Fez tomorrow and Kevin O'Neill, I do host the BetUS show with. Was the Packers D just a one-off performance against a quarterback who doesn't play well outdoors and a team working in 2 new coordinators? Or is this Packers defense a top 5 unit? If the answer to that question is yes, Green Bay probably covers this game. Because again, very tough spot for
Hmm.
Washington, but I don't know the answer to that question just yet.
And it's not just the 2 new coordinators for Detroit, it's the 2 new offensive linemen as well, especially
Sure.
the center. So that obviously has to be a big factor that's measured in as well. So I wanted to look at this game as a part of those trends with fading the teams that are coming off of, the victories, their home favorites, but also part of in the article that I wrote where we have a 68.8% fade trend is a 1-0 favorite coming off of a double-digit win.
Yeah.
And the Packers here are a favorite that's coming off of a double-digit win. Well, the Commanders are also coming off of a double-digit win. So
Sure.
I looked at the other side of this, Jared. If in week number 1 you won your game by double digits, and in week number 2 you're actually an underdog, those teams since the start of the 2021 season, 7-2 against the spread, covering by 5.8 points per game.
Mm.
When those teams are away dogs, 5-1 against the spread, covering by more than a touchdown. 7.4 points per game those teams are covering by.
Wow.
It feels like the way to explain that might be, oh, well, maybe the market thinks that it was a fluke win by double digits in week number 1. Maybe it wasn't. Now, I don't have a
Yeah.
lot of love for the Commanders this year at all, but I mean, these are strong trends lining up to just play the market bias here. Maybe this line shouldn't be 3.5. Maybe this line should be more like 2.5. Maybe this
It
line should be
probably
more
should
like
be
one and a
3.
half.
It probably
Yeah.
should be 3. I think you give the Packers the early travel road Thursday night edge because
Hmm.
it's the first time all year that a team has
I
to
agree.
turn around on a Thursday night and travel early. And I
Hmm.
think that deserves a solid home field advantage. Like we usually say 2 points is home field. I'll give the Packers, plus it's a tough place to play, the
Sure.
full 3 for being at home and for having that edge. But I think it's fair to say the quarterback battle is pretty even here. I think it's fair to say the offensive battle is pretty even here. I think it's fair to say the defensive battle may be slight edge Green Bay, but Dan Quinn's a really good defensive coach, and I think the Commanders looked pretty good on defense last week. So it's kind of right. Like these teams were kind of even last year. Like they kind of are on the same plane. 2 young, quarterbacks that are kind of coming into their prime.
Hmm.
two head coaches that haven't reached the mountaintop yet, but are still very experienced, very respected head coaches, LaFleur and Quinn. Two defenses that I think are probably average, right? I think Parsons makes Green Bay a little bit above average, but he's not full workload yet. Like, it feels like a coin flip kind of game. The spread was 1.5 over the summer, despite the fact that Green Bay was the home team. 3.5 feels a little too heavy.
Yeah, and I would say like home field's now probably 1.5, but Green Bay does get more. You would give Green Bay 2 to 2.5 maybe at home.
Sure.
I was just checking out, Sam Hoppin on Twitter, who's like he works for ESPN. He's a researcher. He does a great job of do a composite power rankings every single week of the NFL season. Like he takes a bunch of people's. So this year, and Steve Fezzik used to be on this list, but I think he's trying to get this out earlier and earlier. So Fez is not on here this year.
Fez is.
Also,
I just expect Fez to be,
also he
excluded from every
replaced
list.
the Rufus Peabody ones used to be on here in the past too, but he replaced those with PFF. So here's what we have. Here's the composite that Sam
Must be
does on Twitter.
PFF ratings.
You got PFF, you got FTN's DVOA, Aaron Schatz and
Okay.
company, the DVOA.
That's legit. DVOA
Yep,
is legit.
yep.
I would rather have
Ke-
Fezzik's ratings than PFF. PFF to me is
okay,
more individual player.
sure. Kevin Cole, unexpected points. Kevin Cole does
He's
a
good.
tremendous job when
He's
it comes to
really
the
good.
stats.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
really good.
Neflo, another incredible stat site.
I'm not familiar with him with his
Oh,
game.
Neflo does incredible work. NFELO, Neflo, great analytics when it comes to NFL.
NFELO. Well, new
Yep.
follow right now.
Yeah, Neflo, it's a website. Check that out. Great stuff there. Unpredictable, which is another, I think it's who's does Unpredictable now. It's somebody that used to work for somebody else, and now it's a different site that's called Unpredictable. Anyway, and then ESPN's FPI model. Okay. So
Okay.
here's your composite power rankings based off all those. The Baltimore Ravens number 1 and like overwhelmingly number 1
Wow.
at a 7.1. The Philadelphia Eagles are next at 5.4. The Bills at 5.3. The Green Bay Packers number 4 at 4.4. Then you got the Chiefs 5, the Lions at 6, which is crazy, but definitely a drop off here. It's a 3.2 only. And then the Commanders at 7 at 3.1. Now, if you look at the just overall, DVOA has the Commanders at 3, but then again, they beat the crap out of the Giants. They're going to look good in terms of a DVOA standard. FPI has them at 8, Neflo at 7, Kevin Cole has them at 8, PFF has them at 7. So you got the Commanders 7th ranked, the Packers 4th ranked. Yeah, I'd say the spread should, if we're just going by these numbers, 3.1 to 4.4, that's a 1.3, add in 2 for home field. Yeah, we're talking about a 3-point spread. 3 and maybe 3.5. I don't know. I just don't know if I can get to 3.5.
I can't get to 3.5. I think
Okay.
at 3.5, especially if it's a solid 3.5. Is it plus 3.5 minus $1.15? Different story. But 3.5 minus $1.10 feels like a pass or Washington. I'm very happy, obviously, with my Green Bay position. I'll
Sure.
probably take a little Washington and hope the game lands 3. I think, and this is a good piece of advice, because obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, odds are you're probably in front of some pretty big line moves, either in college or the NFL. If you're making a solid wager on a game months out, weeks out, and that number moves through a key, you're
Hmm.
a fool for not taking at least a half, maybe a third of it back. I just think that's something that I've really started to do more of, that I was a little bit more hesitant to do earlier in my career because I was, egotistical, like, no, I'm on the right side. I'm going to win this bet.
Yeah.
But for longevity of your account, just like if you bet $100 on the game and I'm at 1.5 and it's 3.5, take 25, $30 and come back on plus 3.5. It is a zero risk move. And in fact, it could actually boost your bankroll in significant ways if you catch some of those middles.
It feels like a field goal game. Could be,
Yeah.
last team that has the ball could win. We have a total of 48.5 I'm seeing here for the total. So it could be one of those. Could be a close game. Could be a final kick type of game, or the Packers could just be this good and just absolutely blow them out.
If they
We'll
do blow them out, I think Green Bay is a top 10 team this year.
yeah.
I maybe would amend that to top 5, maybe even
Well,
top 3, like best in the
they
NFC type of team.
well, according to this composite power ranking of some of the most respected power rankings out there, Green Bay number 4 right now in the NFL.
They're
So
the best
pretty
team in the
interesting.
NFC with all the Niners stuff, and if the Eagles
Yeah.
kind of play with their food this week against Kansas City, they
Yep.
are the favorite in the NFC come Monday morning if they win this game with margin and if the Eagles lose at Kansas City.
So let's get to tonight's game as far as a prop bets are concerned. I know a lot of people are tuning in. They want to know what's our anti-correlated same game parlay after we
Not gonna
cashed
give you
in
out of 6-1 every week, guys. It's
on
not gonna
Monday
work.
night. Uh, that is the thing. I do have a best prop bet for tonight's game, but it's only one that you can bet individually. It's not one
Mm,
that they allow
yeah.
you to include in a same game parlay. So I don't necessarily have a vision for an anti-correlated parlay. The only thing I can think of is my best prop play is going to be on Josh Jacobs' longest rush over 14 and a half yards. And I'll explain
I
why in
like
just a
that.
moment. If you want to play maybe Jacobs over 77 and a half rushing yards and then parlay that with the Commanders plus the 3.5, you can get close to plus 300. So that's like a decent base for a negatively correlated parlay right there, because you would think that if a team is losing, they're not going to be running the ball a lot, right? So if you're betting on the Commanders, it would be correlated to maybe the Packers passing a lot. But the reason why, I'll explain the reason why I like the Jacobs rushing prop. So maybe that's an anti-correlated play that you can look at. Um, but my best bet is on Jacobs' longest rush over 14 and a half yards. So here's what I broke down. Since you guys loved what we did on Monday, I'll break it
Yeah,
down
they
for you
always
here.
love it when it wins. When it loses,
Of
they hate
course,
it.
of course. But listen, if the handicap is sound and you lose, like, you still get credit for it, right? Oh,
Yeah.
you don't? Okay. So here's here's what we're looking at. The Packers last year were a team 5th highest rate of motion in the NFL. And we know that's LaFleur's offense, right? Like, we're talking
Yep.
about the Lions, we're talking about the Rams, the Dolphins. These are teams that use a heavy rate of motion, and the Packers were number 5, 5th most motion plays in the NFL last season. But if you look at the motion plays last season, the Packers were the number 1 team in running the ball on motion plays.
Mm.
They had motion run plays, 420 of them last year. The second highest team in the NFL was at 383. So by far, the Packers ran the ball out of motion snaps more than anybody in the NFL. Last season, against motion run plays, the Commanders' defense allowed the second most rushing yards per play at 5.1 yards, only behind the terrible Carolina Panthers at 5.6. Against the Giants last week, so week 1 of the season, you're thinking new data points, okay. That number was down to 4.3 yards per play. But the Giants only ran the ball out of motion 12 times. The 4.3 yards per play was actually a big jump from the 2 yards per rush that the Giants had when they weren't using motion. So, again, we're seeing a vulnerability here with Dan Quinn's defense, that
Mm.
on motion plays, they have issues stopping the run. And maybe it's because, hey, I don't know what their coverage is, if they're doing man and they're following the guy, right? Like, you know how teams defend motion, they do it differently. Some change assignments, some follow, whatever. In week 1 last week, the Packers ran 18 running plays using motion. Josh Jacobs was the back for 15 of those plays. He got his 66 yards in those 15 plays. That's 4.4 yards per rush on those motion plays. It may be chalky to just say, hey, Jacobs is going to have a big day. He's going to go over his yardage. But I like his over 14 and a half rushing, longest rush here, because the Commanders last year allowed 64 runs of 10 or more yards. That was the 5th most in the NFL. I think there's going to be a chance tonight where Josh Jacobs breaks a long one. He did have a 15-yard run against the Lions. I think he can break a 20-plus yarder here tonight. So I really love the way that they use motion pre-snap. It's a vulnerability of this Commanders defense. Josh Jacobs is going to break one tonight. So give me longest rush over 14.5 yards for Josh Jacobs.
I love it. I can't argue it at all with that handicap. Um, I do
I
think
thought you were going
that
to come.
this.
I thought you were going to come at me with the Billy Madison. That was a well thought out, intelligent.
I can't argue with it. I mean, listen,
Oh no, that was
your
my
numbers
cousin
have been
Vinny.
spot on. What is it? No, it was at no point was it ever
Yeah,
rationalized or
that was
coherent
it.
at all.
No, I thought what I was trying to reference was my cousin Vinny, where he's like, Mr. Gambini, that was a well
Mr.
thought out,
Gambino.
lucid, and intelligent objection. Overruled.
Overruled. What a great movie. I mean, that movie, if that movie's not on your top 5 list, you need to reevaluate your top 5 movie list. Um, there's so many great, like, to me, the prop market has become this treasure trove of breaking down trends in film and analysis. There's really no right or wrong way to spin it. I have friends that literally all they focus on is the longest rush, longest reception props.
Mm,
Those are crap. I mean, I do think those are more of crapshoots because you are
sure.
relying specifically, like, if you're like, building a house, the longest rush prop is like one little section of it. And like the house itself is really big, and there's probably a lot of other opportunities to buy inside of the house. But that
Yeah,
one little
Jacobs
room
could rush for over 200 yards tonight, and his
and
longest
not
rush
get
can
it.
be 12. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's a very specific prop. Um,
Mm,
that I do think is a little bit more like, for example, I wouldn't want to be on the over on that prop unless I like the over in the game. Because to me, what football is today, the most predictive stats tend to be explosive plays on how you win the game and if the game goes over or
mhm.
under the total. If there's a lot of explosive plays in the game, odds are it's going over, and the team that has more explosive plays typically wins. So if I like the over in the game, I would be more apt to bet those very specific, hyper specific props that are obviously more apt to be over props. So to me, it's more about directionally how you feel about the game. Like, I can't argue with anything you said in that handicap, but directionally, if you feel like there's going to be more points scored in this game, then I would like that prop even more.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to, do more about the longest receptions and things like that because I do think kind of like the handicap last week where we looked at the Vikings defense and the way they played off coverage and things like that. I do think there's opportunities to look at because now there's so much data out there. There's so
Yeah.
much data that we
Almost too
can
much,
actually
frankly.
sure, but
It's
we
like
know now
analysis paralysis.
that could be true, yes. But we can pinpoint exactly like how many yards away a cornerback plays off
Yeah.
of a receiver. And so it's like, oh, well, if he plays 5 yards off of him, then it's just those like 2 yard turnaround and catch a screen pass. Well, now he's gonna rack up the receptions, or we're gonna go longest reception under because he's not gonna get beat deep. Like whereas if press coverage, there's so many different things you can look at here, but this is just one angle I'm looking at for this game tonight. And again, I don't have a negatively correlated same game parlay. The only thing I could think of would be if you wanted to take, like I said, maybe the Jacobs over rushing yards with the Commanders plus 3.5. Do you have any other
Mm.
prop angles or any derivative markets that you want to look at for tonight?
No, I mean, I think the three named guy, the Washington back, what is it,
Bill,
Jakrowski something? I don't know.
Bill,
I can't remember.
Jacorski Merritt, Bill.
Korsky Merritt. His numbers are really interesting because he's kind of the guy in this Washington backfield now with Brian
Yeah.
Robinson gone. And if you're the Packers defense and you're Micah Parsons and you're, Halfley and you're trying to take away Jaden Daniels, kind of hard to defend the whole backfield. And this is a guy that the market doesn't have a lot of data points on yet. And
hmm
his number is still super low. I mean, it's in like the 30s for his rushing yards
Yeah.
prop. I mean, that's like
Ja'Cory
one or
Krosky
two
Merritt
good
at
runs.
38.5.
I mean, he got 10 carries last week. I
Yeah.
mean, he only has to average 3.8 yards a carry to get that. And you're dealing with McLaurin and Debo and Jaden Daniels. Like, there's just a lot, and Ertz. Like, there's just a lot of firepower to the outside. And I'm trying to think, again, directionally, if I'm the Packers defense, am I more concerned about that explosiveness on the outside and Jaden Daniels running it? Or am I more concerned about Jakoski Merritt, who's barely played and who no one really knows about yet? So again, those are the players that the market doesn't necessarily have pinned down yet after just
Hmm.
one game, that you might be able to find some value on. Now, what if Washington's down 14-0 in the first quarter? Well, then I don't want to
Yeah.
be on a running back over rushing yards prop. And that's very possible because obviously it's a really bad spot for Washington, and the market likes Green Bay. But if you want to talk about a guy that might be not priced correctly yet, I think that's a guy I would look to.
Um, the other thing I was thinking of is Krosky Merritt's rush attempts over 9.5 plus 103.
Again, game script matters there.
That's true. If they're losing, if they're getting crushed, yeah, it's a whole
Yeah,
different
I,
story.
I I would I would rather be on the yards because you
Okay.
could go. He had a 40-yard run last week,
Hmm.
so he might get 5 carries in the game, but still go over. Because again, Green Bay's not focused on him. They have other fish to fry that are more bigger fish, more impactful, more explosive fish, of the Jaws variety. Whereas I would say this McCroskey guy is kind of a minnow in the Washington offensive pool right now. Maybe he becomes more of a shark later, but I just don't think they're talking a lot about him in the room this week.
Yeah. One more prop I'll give you: Jordan Love longest rush over 5.5 yards.
You loving the longest run, brother. This is your new jam. I'm gonna call you the long guy.
Um, I'm just, I just think with these primetime standalone games, we see these quarterbacks
Oh, we
run,
love quarterback rush props in primetime
and it's
games.
just it's going to happen on like these it's going to happen like he's going to run for a first down. I mean, Russell
Yeah,
Wilson had 8 carries for 44 yards last week. So it just
best
feels like
part of the Giants offense.
there's going to be a play where it's going to either the play is going to break down, or there's going to be so many, the coverage is going to be incredible down the field, and Jordan Love will take off for 6 or 7 yards. Like, it's
I
five and
could
a
see it.
half just feels really low. So I'm going to be on those two props here for this game tonight. All right, let's transition away from the NFL, and because we're going to do more, obviously, on our Football Friday episode coming up tomorrow. But let's talk about the college football game for tonight, Jared. You got Wake Forest and NC State. You and I already have bets on this, and I have staked my last man standing life on this because I submitted early. I shoved all 5 entries last week with Ole Miss. I mean, with Iowa State, and I won. So we
Yeah.
survived all 5 entries to this week number 3 in college football. I shoved all 5 entries here on Wake Forest plus 7.5. That is what I did here on this game. Here's how I look at it. First off, it's a Thursday night primetime game. I always love a home team here on a Thursday night
Oh,
primetime
especially a
game.
home dog.
It's just so fun. It's so fun. It's a short week for both teams, but I always favor the home team in the short week situation. And, the numbers don't really jump out off the page as far as like, home teams, road teams, Thursday nights, whatever. Robbie Ashford, dual threat quarterback for Wake Forest, hasn't exactly had the best season, but 21 carries for 117 yards and 2 scores so far this season. The big factor for me here is Damon Claiborne, the running back for Wake Forest. He's off to a tremendous start this season. NC State has been good against the run, 20th in defensive success rate, but Wake's going to try and play the wear and tear game here. I mean, you got a team coming in road short week after not just playing a game this past weekend, a really tough game this weekend, and 2 tough games. NC State's been in 2 battles in the first 2 games of this season. Last thing they want here is to get into another battle with a team on the road here. Wake Forest, meanwhile, 17th overall in success rate defensively, 13th against the pass. I think they'll be able to limit the big plays. And here's a bonus trend that I looked up. I specifically looked at ACC games on Thursday nights.
Interesting.
ACC games on Thursday nights. Jared, in the last 2 years, the home team on Thursday nights is undefeated in the ACC. 7-0
Wow.
straight up.
No shit.
Now they're only 4-3 against the spread, but they've all been favorites. This is the first time in 2 seasons we've had a Thursday night ACC game where there is a dog, where there's a home dog. 7 prior times the home team has been favored.
Yeah,
I'm just
there's
going to
really
back.
not much to this handicap, I think. I
Yeah, I'm
honestly
getting seven
think
and a half here.
I honestly think it's 7.5. You got to take the points. Our friends at Pick Six make this game 4.5. They do a great job. Again, you want to talk about a good projection model and a good, I would say, resource for college football in the
Yep.
power conferences. Pick Six, and I always mispronounce his last name, Brett Ciancia. I can't
Ciancia.
pronounce Ciancia. Yeah, you got to put the
Yeah.
hey Panable on there. Yeah,
Leave it to the
he
Jersey guy to get the pronunciation correctly.
to
Yeah.
get the Italian name right. He's fantastic. I see him doing
Yeah.
a lot with Tim Murray on the VSiN College Football Weekly Pod. Really good listen and a really good resource. I'm subscribed to their Pick Six Plus weekly release, so I'll gladly bring those numbers onto here. They make the game 4.5, so I don't see how you can't take the points. You get all of the situational factors that Scott just mentioned, and you get, in my
Hmm.
opinion, a pretty good resource for college football telling you that this game's a little bit off price. I think NC State's offense has impressed me so far this year, but how do they handle it on the road against what you would expect to be a very motivated Wake Forest team? Wake Forest numbers have not been good, opponent adjusted wise. But to be fair, they've played I think they played two FCS teams. Oh, no, they played one FCS team and another cupcake. I know last week they beat up on an FCS team. So tough to really gauge what they're showing you. I think the
Hmm.
biggest overreaction to the FCS game so far is teams or people feel that the teams don't show you enough. Yeah, duh. For example, why would Georgia show you anything against Austin P?
Yeah.
Like,
No
what
reason.
what's the upside there for Georgia to show you anything that they're actually working on that they really like against Austin P? There's there, and
Hmm.
that's why Kirby Smart's 0-12 against the spread when the spread's more than 35 points. Because he knows when you're facing teams that you should blow out, just win the game and move on. You don't care what the score is. It's
Yep.
irrelevant. So I think Wake beating up on an FCS team and their opponent adjusted numbers not really looking so hot is irrelevant to me right now. Same thing with Georgia, and same thing with some of these other teams that, kind of slept walk in their first two games against cupcakes.
Yep. We're seeing in the market here pretty much sevens across the board. Still a couple of 7.5s, including at FanDuel. So you can get a 7.5 right now up on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I would hurry up and grab the plus 7.5 because I have a feeling that this thing drops below 7 by the time we get to
Totally
kickoff.
agree. There's no way it closes 7.5. No way.
Yep, I would agree. So that is the take here on the college football game tonight. Wake Forest hosting NC State again. Best bet is Best bet is Wake Forest plus 7.5. Let's get into some Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, the postseason races are heating up, Jared. We have about 15 to 17 games left in the regular season, and it's becoming that time of the year where it's like, hey, who wants to be a playoff team? And we can play the game. Who wants to win this? I don't know who wants to win this because we have teams slumping now at the worst times possible. The New York Mets have lost 5 straight games. The Padres have dropped 2 straight. Now, the Padres thankfully are still 3 games ahead of the Mets for the second wild card because the Mets can't win a baseball game. But the San Francisco Giants, the Mets got lucky that the Giants lost yesterday because the
Mm.
Giants are only 2 games back of the Mets for the third wild card, and the Cincinnati Reds are only 2 games back now of the Mets for the third wild card. So this is going to be fascinating down the stretch here. Meanwhile, in the American League, Yankees drop another pitiful game. Bullpen's terrible. The managing is terrible. We can just talk about all the mishaps here, but the bullpen really ain't getting it done. Yankees tied with the Red Sox now. Actually, they're slightly ahead for the first wild card. But keep in mind now, if you are the first wild card, you play the lowest division winner. So if the Yankees finish with the first wild card, if the
Houston.
season ended today, they would play Houston or Seattle, whoever wins the
Wow.
West, right?
I think it's
But
going to
then
be
again,
Houston.
yeah, but then again, Houston's down this year. So maybe that's a good thing. Do the Yankees want to play the Blue Jays, who have beaten them this year? Do the Yankees want to play the Tigers, who just blew them out 2 nights in a row? I don't know. I think you're better off playing the Astros. Now, I can tell you this. I think if I'm the Yankees, I'd rather play the Astros than play the Red Sox. And
Mm.
so if there's a chance that, if the Yankees and Red Sox slip up here, which I don't think they will, I think one of them is going to be the first wild card, the other one's going to be the second wild card. But then we're talking about it gets more difficult down the stretch. I tweeted this out last night. Oh, by the way, the Texas Rangers are only 1 game out. They've won 4 straight games. I tweeted this out last night. I think this year is the most wide open year that we've had in
Oh,
quite
a
some time in Major League
hundred
Baseball.
percent. Even the National League.
Yes. And I think if there was ever a year to take a long shot flyer on a team to win the World Series, this is the year to do it. And I
Totally
pointed
agree.
out the Red Sox at plus 1900, make that bet now. You want to
Ugh.
bet a team at 17 to 1 or 20 to 1, make that bet right now because I don't think that there's any true favorite, especially with no more Zach Wheeler for the Phillies cuz it would
Yep.
be the Phillies if they had Zach
Yep.
Wheeler. But without Wheeler and some of the bullpen issues and some of the injuries too, Trey Turner down, Alec Boehm down, we hope these guys are going to come back or they hope they're going to come back. I can't trust the Phillies right now. So there is no team I trust. Now you want to say the Dodgers are getting healthier and that's a scary thing because Muncy's back and Smith is back and Vesey is back and Glasnow's back. Okay, maybe that's a scary thing. But I truly don't know. I think if there's any year to take a shot on some long odds, this is the year.
And then the Dodgers will just run through everybody. And it'll be the
Absolutely.
most
Yep.
boring World Series ever because they'll
For
sweep
sure.
some,
Yep.
scrappy American League team that fights their way
100%.
through what is a wide open field. And then it's like, it'll be, you know what it'll remind me of? It'll remind me of the Rangers and the D-backs when the D-backs upset the Phillies. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, wow, Arizona, Cinderella story. I think Texas won that World Series in 5 games. I think it was pretty quick. Texas was obviously the better team that year, but
Sure.
I've tried to wrap my head around this baseball season. I've gotten every futures pick right. I thought Juan Soto was gonna unseat Shohei. I thought Wheeler was gonna win Cy. This was finally his year. And
Yep.
I've been wrong. I was wrong on the Brewers earlier this year. I thought they were a laughing stock, and now they're gonna be right in it again. It's just I've been wrong every step of the way in this baseball season. And it's not really a knock on me. I just think it's been that unpredictable.
Yeah, the only thing I got right in my futures bets was Red Sox to make the playoffs. So it's the only
All
it's the
right,
only
you'll get
future
that
bet.
one right.
The only future bet I
Watch
got
it be
right.
Brewers Tigers, and it'll be like the most
Right. Yeah.
boring,
It's just gonna be disgusting.
worst rated World Series
Yeah.
ever. Like,
Just we'll be like, oh, when's the next football game? Like, who
when's the
cares?
next football game? It'll be like a minor league baseball World Series. Detroit and
Oh
Milwaukee.
goodness. Well, it's been a brutal week for me betting baseball. I mean, whether it's the
You're
the
still
betting and
betting
under, and then
baseball, bro. I don't know how you're doing. How do you have
I don't
time?
know. I
I
don't know.
could
It's like
barely bet football this week.
the Padres bullpen, which was a strength for them, 2 days in a row blowing games. Just I don't know. I don't know, man. So here's what we have tonight. Games of note. Well, today because we have some day games. Astros at the Blue Jays. Christian Javier for the Astros. Kevin Gausman for Toronto. Toronto minus 155. Yankees and Tigers do it again tonight. It's Cam Schlittler, Yankees young rookie phenom,
Strikeout
and
prop. He's been a strikeout king with his prop this year.
yeah, that's and I think the Tigers might go with an opener situation here. So maybe
Mm.
Yankees first 5. Plus, also the way this Yankee bullpen has been absolutely terrible. You can't bet the Yankees in a full game. Their bullpen has been atrocious. I would only look for the Yankees in the first 5, only.
Yeah.
Or yeah, maybe a Schlittler. You know what I would look at also? A Schlittler over outs recorded prop because the Yankee bullpen's been so bad that if he's pitching well, Aaron Boone just might say, "Hey, stay out there. I don't want to take
Yeah.
him out." So
I can't
maybe
trust
that's the way
Aaron
to look at
Boone
it.
to make any proper decision with a bullpen, though. That's like
Yeah,
asking a child to solve complex calculus equations. It's
it's
probably
amazing.
not going to happen.
You ask Yankee fans, they hated Girardi with his binder. I would take Girardi's binder
I
any
would
day of
take
the
the
week
binder right
o-
now.
over over what's going on here. Mets and Phillies will do it again from Citizens Bank. Jesus Luzardo goes for the Phillies and David Peterson for the Mets. Philly minus 150. Angels at the Mariners tonight. It's Miller on the mound for the Mariners, and Jose Soriano goes for the Angels. And Mariners minus 175. I think that price is just a little too high here, paying a tax on a team in the playoffs. Plus, they played extra innings last night, so extra inning game last night. Then it's like they're home, so it's not like it's travel built in. But I don't know. It kind of feels like I want to fade the situation going on there. All right, that'll wrap up the discussion. A reminder. You can go to betterday.com. Check out that article that's up there right now, free for members. Go to betterday.com, sign up if you haven't done so already, and read that article about week 2 trends, the contrarian plays. Sometimes the best bets are the hardest ones to make. You might have to hold your nose, but I think we found some real value here in the week 2 betting markets. You can always subscribe to the podcast. Please do, wherever you get your podcasts from. Rate us, review us. It does go a long way into helping us grow, so we do appreciate your feedback if you can do that for us. And tune in. Coming up a little bit later on today, Jared Smith will be hosting the BetUS TV NFL show. So you want to make sure you tune into that. Our buddy Steve Fezzik will join him as well. So you'll get the best bets coming up from Jared and Fez on the BetUS TV NFL show coming up later on this afternoon. Follow Jared on Twitter at Jared Smith Bets. You can follow me on Twitter at Scott's On Air. And we will talk to you tomorrow for our Football Friday episodes. A reminder, Football Friday is in 2 parts. Part 1 comes out as normal, and then part 2 comes out later on Friday afternoon. So Football Friday coming up tomorrow. Here's hoping you make every day a better day.